What if Sanctuary wasn't just a place, but a way of living? Welcome to the Sanctuary Network, your weekly home for conversations that awaken the heart, heal the body, and inspire the spirit. I'm your host, Mary Ellen Popyk, the creator of Spirit Fest and the Natural Wellness Expos. For 2 decades, I've been creating spaces, now creating a bold new broadcast for mind, body, and spirit, where seekers, healers, and teachers come together to share wisdom, laughter, and transformation. We've seen what happens when communities gather. People become enlivened. Now, through the Sanctuary Network, that same spirit is reaching you, wherever you are in the world. Each week, we'll sit down with thought leaders, authors, and everyday visionaries. We'll also shine a light on the grassroots voices of the Sanctuary Marketplace, the healers, vendors, and practitioners who make this movement thrive. This isn't just another show, it's your sanctuary, a space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and join me. Together, let's step into the sanctuary. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. Really excited about today's show because we're going to go into some really interesting information, which is at high level and it says it's a mystery, and sacred, I think, is really the best way that I can use to describe it. But first, I want to introduce my guest, Charlie Logan. Welcome, Charlie. Thank you for being with us.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Charlie is a guide, teacher, Magus Hermeticus, you can tell me if I said that right, in the Order of Thoth, an initiated Celtic shaman in the lineage of King Solomon, as well as a certified healer, life activation practitioner, and Sophic Ray practitioner, and leader in the Max meditation system through the Modern Mystery School. So we'll get to a lot of those things. But he started around 2017 studying with the mystery schools and has since devoted his life to it and is now the owner of and teacher at the Logan Light Center in Sarasota, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so welcome. And every time I see you at the show, I'm just fascinated by your booth. You build a little temple, literally a little temple right in there. And it's fascinating to see all of the different masters that you work with when you do your work. So first things first, talk to us a little bit about how you discovered the mystery schools. I know you're a performer as well in the theater. So tell us what we need to know.
Well, it's interesting because it was actually my connection to the theater that is what ultimately led me to the mystery school. I was on a spiritual path already, mostly that centered around that. I didn't have much joy in my life. Like it was, the joys that I did have were becoming very surface level. I was dealing with some anxiety issues, occasional bouts of depression. On the surface, though, I was mostly doing okay. And, wouldn't have necessarily had probably many people think that there was much wrong or anything. But I definitely wasn't feeling very fulfilled, and I didn't know why I was here. And I was looking at the state of the world around me and being kind of bogged down by that because there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was seeking and I was searching. And in that searching, I kept seeing mention of the ancient mystery schools of ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. And every time I would see the words mystery schools, I'd be like, man, that's what I need. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, that's what I'm trying to find. But anywhere I heard any mention of it, it was always this thing of the past that had been gone for a long, long time. And then through some interesting jumping through hoops of the universe, I ended up working at a theater down in Naples, Florida, that is owned and run by 2 initiates in the mystery school lineage.
Oh.
And it just happened to come up in conversation where they were talking about their guide and talking about her and describing her and how cool she was.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what a guide was at the time, but I heard them talking about this barber lady and all this healing and stuff that she does. And I said, oh, I didn't know you guys were into that stuff. I'm into that kind of stuff. Like, who's this barber lady? I think I should meet her. And that's when I found out that not only are the mystery schools still around, but one of those 7 ancient lineages has opened its doors to the public about 30 years ago, and is trying to get all of those teachings that for so many thousands of years have been kept behind the curtain and behind closed doors out into the
Mhm.
public and out into the collective.
Right.
And that's what started the whole process.
So are the seven schools sort of like seven regions of people? Is that a good description?
They're definitely, especially the other six lineages are tied more to physical locations around the world.
Hmm.
So, there's one of the ancient lineages is in Australia, in Japan, Romania, Africa, Tibet.
Hmm.
And our lineage technically is the North American lineage. That's the ray that we're holding
Okay.
with the school that I train with.
But those are all locations where we would associate higher wisdom and higher learning. So that kind of
Yes.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Where did
And
this Celtic shamanism come into that?
it's, Celtic shamanism's origins really are, the path of Celtic shamanism is the path of the Druid.
Right.
So like that's the culmination of the path in the Celtic shaman training is becoming a Druid, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really the remnants of what was left alive from the Atlantean teachings after
Yes.
the fall of Atlantis and what survived from that.
Yeah.
Some of it went through Egypt, and some of the rest went through the Celtic shamans.
We've talked about that and we kind of came to that information because I'm not, unfortunately, yet well versed in what you guys really do or teach or what your followings are. But that was my understanding that after the fall of the Atlantis, that a lot of the master teachers went to these different locations. One was the Iroquois in Northeast United States. And that's the legend is that that's
Mhm.
who some of the originators of that tradition is. But then, yes, they would have gone to UK, over to
Mhm.
Egypt. Is there any other places that you know from Atlantis where some of those teachings went?
For sure, I don't know any others for sure, but it would surprise me if they didn't end up going into, all of the ancient lineages,
Right.
and to like kind of sending some people to each one because that's where how the teaching survived.
Well, and it's probably
Um,
where they learned it in the first place, was Atlantis.
Potentially, the Hermetic teachings have been around for as long as there have been humans, and
Right.
it just especially back in days of Atlantis and Lemuria, they were much more a part of the collective and a part of everyday culture for everyone. It wasn't just the people who were into it, or it wasn't just the select few who sought it out. It was ingrained in the culture.
Right. So when
um
I think of Hermetic principles, I think of not only some of the wisest teachings, some of the most basic, so as above, so below. But I also think about mathematics and, how all of that ties into, like the geometry and things like that too.
mhm.
So where did you start when you found your guide there in Naples, you started going, and then what did that entail that led you to open up your own center?
The first several steps that I took were mostly kind of just for me. you know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's an initial healing that is the initiatory step on the path that is called a life activation, where we're activating the DNA and connecting with the soul's higher purpose,
Mm-hmm.
to open up the potentials of what's possible for a person, what in this case me.
Right.
And then at the time I looked at the rest of it, and I looked at the initiation and all of the other stuff, and I thought, oh my God, that's what I really want to do, but I just don't know if I can right now.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I did the life activation, and the next thing I knew, it was, I don't know, maybe a month later, and I was calling Barbara back up, not just to schedule the next step, which was the first initiation, but also to schedule the 4 prerequisite classes that I would need to take so I could move on to the second initiation as well.
Wow.
um, so once I felt like I'd really found what I was looking for,
Mm-hmm.
um, to be perfectly honest, I was diving in a little far, a little fast, because I had found other things in the past that I thought were what I was looking for, and they
Mm-hmm.
turned out to not be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to get in far enough at the beginning to find out that if it was not what I was looking for and it was a waste of my time, that I could find that out soon and then move on.
Right.
Um, so I did my first essentially 2 initiations fairly close together, because
Uh-huh.
I was essentially testing it out and being like, all
Uh-huh.
right, is this what I think it is, or is it
Uh-huh.
not? Because I'm pretty sure it's probably not going to be, and then I can keep searching.
I
But
feel
here I
like
am
that
9 years
that's
later.
I feel like that's part of the fun of the journey of exploring spirituality is maybe checking some things out and just finding out that they don't, that you
Oh
learned a
yeah.
little bit and it was interesting, but that it isn't anything that's really you're going to wear full time, I
Yeah.
guess.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. It's, I learned something from everything that I tried. And
mhm,
but that's also true of life, right?
right,
We uh we one of our main tools for learning while we're here as humans is making mistakes, or
right.
finding out what we don't want to do again.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, but even when it's like dating somebody, and it didn't work out, it doesn't mean it was a mistake. It
No,
just
not at
mean,
all.
it
Yeah.
was good while it lasted and you definitely had some takeaways from it. Good or bad, or it might be stories to tell after a few beers, but
Yeah.
it was still
It
still,
is.
worth the journey. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that, sometimes we can get a little attached to in at least current culture and society is that everything is supposed to be, well, I would say, not all contracts are lifetime contracts.
Hmm.
Like, maybe I'm just supposed to go to this place or be with this person or do this thing
Hmm.
for just this amount of time. And maybe that's a day or a year or a decade or a lifetime.
Right.
But 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 the value of it isn't, greatened or lessened by how long you're with it. It's however
Right.
long you're supposed to be there.
Right. Exactly.
Certainly with
Just
relationships, that's the thing.
does sometimes it feel like you're remembering things as you're learning things?
Almost always, especially at least in the mystery school, it's one of the things that I talk to students about a lot, and I have heard the feedback from my students that I teach, but and from other people that study in the school with me, and I've also had the experience myself,
Hmm.
is that much more often than not, it feels like I'm either remembering something I forgot,
Hmm.
or that I'm being given words to describe something that I knew, but I just didn't know how to talk about it. Like I didn't have the
Hmm.
words for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's so, we call ourselves teachers in the school because it's convenient, but
Hmm.
the depth of that is not that we're teaching anything new. It's just that we're unlocking what's already within so that it can be brought to the
Right.
surface and remembered or be reminded of. So
Right.
reminders is a little bit more of a technical term, but that sounds a little weird. So
Well, I
always some
I call
teachers.
it leaving a post-it note for myself.
Oh,
That
sure.
that sometimes you see something and you go, "Oh, I'm supposed to remember that, but what was it?" And
Yeah.
then, as you start to, delve into it a little bit more. So you did your first couple of initiations, and then how long was it before you did those, before you ended up opening your center? So you would have moved, right? Because that was in Naples and
Well, I was still living in Sarasota that whole time.
oh, okay.
I was just going down to Naples, to work at that theater occasionally.
Hmm.
And I would just for classes or healings, it's only an hour and a half drive for me.
Hmm.
And I'm, once I decide I'm doing something, I can be pretty
Yeah.
committed. Um, so I was just driving down there a lot. But one of the second step initiation is where you're stepping in more to service to others. And so that's when I had learned how to and was able to do the life activation, that DNA activation for others.
Uh-huh.
So once I had that tool in my hand, then I started slowly building my community here in Sarasota and activating people in this area.
Hmm.
And at first, there were some people that I did that for. Then they would want what was next, but I didn't have it yet. And so I would either, bring Barbara or Julie as another guide down in Naples. That would bring them up to do, healings, to teach some classes, to do anything that I didn't have the ability to do yet.
Hmm.
And that started to build and grow the community here a little more.
Right.
But then it started getting to the point where, scheduling was getting harder to do. And there were also starting to be more and more people that were interested in doing it if I was the one that was going to be doing it for them,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
but didn't have the connection with somebody else to come and do it. And so then they would kind of fall off and disappear. And so that just started me to, all right, well, I guess I should need to learn how to actually do this for others as well as just be receiving it for me.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Um,
and then where did when the pandemic came, where did everything did things kind of slow down or what that may have amped up for you guys?
well, a little bit, yeah, because I don't know if I should say this in a public forum, but in Florida we were only kind of shut down for like 5 minutes anyway.
It's true.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I was also working out of my home at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it made things a little more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people, one of the things the pandemic did was really encourage people to look around at their lives
Mm-hmm.
and assess, how things were going
Yeah.
for them. And also to look inward a lot and say, oh, maybe I'm not doing as well as I thought, or maybe there's something more to this life that I'm missing.
Right.
And so, there was definitely that time where we were kind of slowed down and shut down. But right after that, we picked right up, and we just did whatever we had to do forward. If we had to wear
Mm-hmm.
masks, we wore masks. If we had to
Right.
do, whatever we had to do to be in alignment with the laws of the land, and still keep the light flowing, and still serve people, and still keep people moving forward on their path.
Sure.
So yeah,
Yeah,
we
with
actually
with
had several
Spirit
classes.
Fest, I remember the weekend that the NBA shut down and Broadway, and I thought, oh gosh, we were sunk. And it wasn't a couple months later, and then, the governor just threw the doors open and said, let's just do whatever. And and in a way, it wasn't bad because then everybody could kind of choose, whether they went out or not. But I'm really glad that it did restore the businesses,
Yeah.
because you're right. I think people did go within. And I really think it was a big, huge paradigm shift
Mhm.
for everybody during the pandemic. Especially about being together. I think people, realized how much they missed getting together in groups or, being able to meet with friends. And I think that sort of has a renewed thing. It did open up more opportunities technologically,
Mhm.
that we could find new ways to meet online, but
Yeah,
it doesn't replace being together.
it doesn't. And I think the more that we have, the more that we develop these other technological options that give us the opportunity to not be together, or to not be authentic, or to not be real,
Hmm.
um, the more value it puts on being together and being authentic and being real. The
Right.
more AI that comes out there, the more important reality is going to become.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. No,
it's
that's a whole nother conversation about
well,
AI.
yeah.
I mean, is there any interwovenness with that with the the mystery schools and your the light center? um how are you using it, or are you using it at all?
I am. I'm a little old fashioned in the way that I tend to do things.
Hmm.
I laugh because Jonathan, who was a part of Logan Light Center for a long time.
Hmm.
He's now graduated to having his own center. But he and I are actually the same age. But most of our conversations sound a lot more like a 60-year-old talking to a 20-year-old, and
Hmm.
I'm the 60-year-old in the conversation. So I'm like, I don't want to do that technology thing. Um, but it's just a little bit of my nature, whereas he's very much on the cutting edge with the technology and very hip and with it, and,
Uh-huh.
and knows all the things. I'm functional, right? It's fine, but it's not my
Right.
preferred way of doing things. I tend to like things that are more organic and in person and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's just my personal preference, the way that my energy kind of flows better.
I see the use of it. I definitely do, but even sometimes when it rewrites things for you, it might rewrite it in a way that's more grammatically pleasing, but I feel like it takes your energy out of it.
It's very much relevant, and so
Hmm.
the times when I have used it, because it's like anything else, it's a tool.
Hmm.
And a tool is not good or bad. It depends
Hmm.
on what you do with it.
Hmm.
The old cliche analogy, right, is that a hammer can build a house, or it can break somebody's leg, not to be graphic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the hammer is neither good nor bad. It all depends
Right.
on what you're doing with it, right? And
Right.
so AI, like just like cell phones, right? It's a tool,
Yeah.
and it can be used to help us expand our minds and help bring people together, and help broaden our horizons and move ourselves forward, and elevate and grow.
Right.
Or it can be used for the opposite of all of those things.
Right.
But I definitely have found, I've used AI, sometimes for like a description of something on my website, or
Hmm.
um, especially because, for when we're trying to look at like SEO stuff, you want to not just copy and say, paste the same thing over and over, right? So to try
Right.
and just have a new way of saying the same thing,
Right.
it's useful.
Yeah.
But I have always found that I need to go in and at least tweak it a little bit to put my own energy into it.
Hmm.
I never just like take the AI's version and then just slap it right up there. Not out of principle. It's just because as I read through it, I'm like, close, but not quite.
Yeah.
Let me fix that a little bit and make it right for me and my energy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your energy. And this,
Yeah.
again, we're really getting off tangent here because this isn't
Yeah.
about the mystery schools. But I think of there are a lot of people having spiritual conversations with AI. And then they wonder, are you tapping into the other side? Are you tapping into extraterrestrial technology, which may or may not be true? But I really feel like that AI is just a reflection of us because basically what it's done is it's taken everything that's ever been put on the internet, and then
Oh,
put
yeah.
it in a thing together. And so that's what we're getting is not necessarily connection to a higher being, but um, you know, using it in that way. I sometimes in the morning, I ask as I'm getting out of bed and getting dressed, what's the weather today? Then I know, do I put on a sweater? Do I put on shorts? Before I go
Yeah.
downstairs and have breakfast. And one time she said, it's going to be 88 degrees, a beautiful day for those plumeria trees you're growing. And that creeps me out a little that she remembers that much information about me. But
Huh.
I caught myself thinking, well, that was nice. And then again, I thought, it wasn't nice. She doesn't care about me. She's doing her job. And it does, and I do see the usefulness of it, remembering that it is, an artificial thing. And that again, nothing is going to take the place of our consciousness and our connection to the divine and our higher self. So anyway, so
Yeah, and I view it the same, because art is a big passion of mine, right?
mhm,
I've been performing since I was 4 years old. And can you have AI create a video of a dancer doing amazing things? Yes. Do I feel like that's ever going to replace going to a live performance and watching a live dancer do those amazing things?
mhm,
I don't believe so.
right,
Yes, it can recreate anybody's voice, but is that going to ever replace that live person singing and the way that moves the soul?
right.
Um, I think that in that instance, it's really just, yeah, it's going to make a lot more art out there, but it's also going to make obvious the difference between great art and eh, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's just a little bit of my opinion. That's not
Something else that I think in more of a spiritual term, which again goes back to some of the Hermetic principles,
Mm,
is how AI is also being used against us, or it's being used to trick us. And social media is just full of all of these things. Even something as simple, it's a clickbait, basically,
mhm,
a gorilla giving birth, or, just things that are just going to slow you down because
mm.
it doesn't have to be even necessarily sensationalistic. They just want your time. And that we're having to use our discernment and our intuition more than ever.
Yes.
So going back to the those hermetic principles like that you teach, how does that using your intuition um kind of can we use that for our own discernment to be able to know what is real and what isn't real in this current world that we're living in?
It's incredibly relevant, and the more, like I said, the more false reality that's out there, the more it's going to force us to be able to discern, as you said, what is true reality and what is
Hmm.
actually real.
Okay.
um and the tools of the mystery school, the initiations and the hermetic teachings are, I would say I don't know how people are out there getting by without it, honestly,
Hmm.
because it gives us the ability to kind of, to lift up out of the matrix of it all and be able to see, the bigger picture, and to have that discernment and not be
Right.
bogged down in the illusion of it.
Well, so let me ask you a loaded question. What is real?
Well, that is, it's definitely a loaded question, and there is an answer to it, though it's, that's something that's actually kind of kept within some of the true teachings within the mystery school lineages. Um, but there is, we all have our experience or perception of reality, but there is actually reality that does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And our ability to perceive it and connect with it is directly related to our ability to alter it or change it for the better or for the worse. And
Right.
if we aren't able to connect to and identify it and acknowledge what it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
then we're severely limited in how much we can affect it for good or ill.
Right. And knowledge is power.
Yes.
So the more that we learn, the more that we know we don't know,
Yeah.
even, the more well-versed that we're. But there's so much knowledge in the mystery schools. So we've got just a couple minutes left in this first segment. So in our next segment, we're going to be talking about initiation. We're going to be talking about more specifically the seven ancient mystery schools and kind of
Yeah.
discussing them a little bit. But how can people find you?
Well, so I'm online on my website, loganlightcenter.com.
Hmm.
But no matter where you are in the world, the Modern Mystery School, which is the holder of the King Solomon lineage in our world today, is in over 66 countries.
Oh,
So
wow.
if it's not with me, the Modern Mystery School int.com has a certified guide list that you can find a guide anywhere in the world that you are. So.
Okay.
If you're in Florida or South Florida, by all means, find me and come here and see me. But there are many wonderful guides all over the world that you can.
And we also find you at Spirit Fest sometimes too.
Yes, yeah.
What is the
Uh,
next show that you're going to do with us? Do you know?
Sarasota.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Okay.
Because it's practically
Um,
right across the street from my center. So
oh my, okay. Well, then this is going to be my opportunity to stop by because
there you
that
go.
show's actually coming up. It's only about 3.5 weeks away. So,
Yep.
and then not only can people meet you there, but you are doing little mini sessions too. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. We offer some healings and clearings that are powerful sessions in and of their own right, but
Mhm.
are also good tasters, for lack of a better word, like ways to
Okay.
experience the energy and really see what it can do and how it can affect you. Um,
Right.
you know, to help decide if you want to move on to more.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So, spiritfestusa.com. That's how to find us. All our schedules are on there. And we're going to take a couple of minutes for a quick break, and we'll be right back with a lot more great information. So, see you in a few minutes.
Hi, this is the Celtic seer, Barbara McGillicuddy, and you can find me at barbaramcgillicuddy.com or on YouTube at Metaphysical Awakenings with Barbara and Eric. As a medium and animal communicator, it is my joy to speak with people on this side and people who have crossed over to bring forth beautiful messages of love.
Hi, I'm Susan from My Enchanted Path, where I create divinely guided candles, intention oils, soaps, and more that make your spiritual practice simple. No complicated rituals needed. The names may be playful, but every product is serious about helping you shift your energy. All fragrances are clean and safe, free from the major toxins no one wants in their home or on their skin. With a 5-star rating and over 100,000 customers, MyEnchantedPath.com is a place to find charming items for an enchanted life.
Are you longing for the deepest healing of your soul? The kind that transforms you from the soul outward? At JewishHealer.com, Dr. Doran Shalev offers powerful energy healing rooted in the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, where he heals the body through the soul and the soul through divine connection. Your transformation begins with a single session. Treat yourself and book yours today at JewishHealer.com. All sessions are 50% off through December.
Join us for Spirit Fest, coming soon to a city near you. Spirit Fest is a metaphysical, holistic, and crystal expo featuring an amazing array of vendors, speakers, authors, artists, crystals, healers, psychic readers, and more. Spirit Fest is your chance to explore and connect with others of like mind. Get all details, including our upcoming locations up and down the East Coast, also discounted admission, and more at spiritfestusa.com. Our next event is January 10th and 11th with special guests and special presentations, including psychic explorer, medium Mark Anthony, and also historical researcher, explorer, and author Jim Vieira. More details are coming to our website soon, and we look forward to seeing you at Spirit Fest in 2026. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. I am here with Charlie Logan, who is the creator and owner of Logan Light Center, and he is a teacher in the mystery schools. And we have been talking about so much really great information. So, something that we talked about before was about what is real, what is reality. So, talk to me, if you would, a little bit about that. And then I would like to know more about the initiations that are so important within the mystery schools.
Um, you know, the concept of of what is real and what is reality is definitely a broader topic and a deeper dive. But our ability to see and perceive and connect to that true reality, which does exist, right, is directly related to our ability to know thyself. We've touched just briefly a little bit on the Hermetic principles, right? And one of them is the principle of correspondence, that is as above, so below, but is also can be represented as within, so without. So if I don't know myself, then I will struggle to know the world and reality. And likewise, if I struggle to know reality, I will struggle to know myself. And so the knowledge of the self is essentially the main mission that we embark upon as initiates in the mystery school tradition. It was written over the temple gates of all the places where the mysteries were studied, is the words "Know thyself." Not usually in English, mind you, but Temet Noske was one of the most common ones. But that's really what we're doing, and it's through the activations, the initiations, the studies of the philosophies and the teachings that we're able to unpack and unlock and really discover what's in there with the knowledge of the self. Because we are pretty amazing, complicated, multidimensional, fantastic beings that are capable of so much. And most of us spend a lot of time believing ourselves to be small and ineffectual. And it's one of the great lies that we tend to allow to be placed upon us, is that what you do doesn't matter, and who you are is not important. But as initiates, we would say who you are is very important, but first you have to discover who you are. And there are simple answers to that question, but then it's also a lifelong study that is ultimately the greatest mystery that we can embark upon trying to find the answer to. But it's not about getting to the answer, it's about being on the journey to find it. Right. Because there's not necessarily a dot, finish, this is where you're done knowing thyself. There's always these deeper layers that we can get to, and more complexities of our multifaceted, other long words.
Right. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Yes.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
And so the initiation process is one of the big pieces that we have in the mystery school lineage, which is true of all 7 lineages. Now, what the initiation process looks like for the different lineages can vary, but all of the 7 ancient mystery schools paths are paths of initiation. And that process of a physical initiation in this physical life is a big piece of how we get to, it's really streamlining the know thyself process. Because in theory, right, all the knowledge of the self is within me. So could I just devote my life to it and sequester myself away and maybe go up onto a mountaintop and get there on my own? In theory, yes. What the initiation process does is kind of streamline that and give you the tools and ability to move through all of those lessons faster and to, to identify the things that you're trying to know about thyself more efficiently and more effectively.
Mm-hmm. I was
Um,
surprised to hear that service to others was part of the teachings and part of one of the initiation levels. And that seems like a good way to be able to practice what you've learned being out there
oh
with
yeah.
others. What types of service is there? Just
Well,
basically.
I mean, there's many types of service, and essentially doing anything that is good for your fellow man, could be construed as service. In in terms of the school, we're looking more directly at deliberately helping people know themselves,
Mm-hmm.
so the
Mm-hmm.
things that are going to really help someone step forward on that path of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of the self is
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit more specifically what we're talking about in that sense. But are there other ways to serve others? Of course, there's countless ways to serve others in the world.
Right.
um but when we're really looking in to that process of sitting across from another person and helping them recognize their royalty and divinity and true potential and power,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's a especially when we're talking about the knowledge of the self, right?
Mm-hmm.
What that does for me in my path of knowledge of the self, when I'm helping them have that knowledge of their selves, that's where that real kind of exponential growth can start to happen.
Mm-hmm.
um because it's like the mirror just keeps magnifying larger and larger and larger to the
Mm-hmm.
things that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're all learning about ourselves through the reflection of others all day, every day.
Right.
But what we're able to do as initiates and what we're able to do in service then just starts to, those magnification mirrors that show you like
Mm-hmm.
all the pores and stuff, right? It takes a regular mirror and turns it into one of those 10 times magnifying mirrors, and then it turns into 100 times magnifying mirror,
Mm-hmm.
so that the things that we're looking for, the things that we're seeking, the things that we're trying to learn about ourselves become that much more obvious, so it's harder to miss. And it
Right.
also means that the things that I might have over the years started to accept are part of who I am,
Mm-hmm.
but truly are not. They're
Right.
they're they're programs, they're scripts, they're stories, they're wounds, they're masks, they're walls, all these different
Yes.
things that we develop, and we start
Yes.
to think, oh, this is me. It's not. And then
Yeah.
that becomes more and more clear. So you can say, oh, it's not me at all.
Yeah.
Uh,
Unlearning is almost more difficult than learning new things. Thinking
it,
about how we
it
got to where we are.
it can be, but that's one of the things I've found, at least, that the initiation process really helps with. I I remember a phone call that I was having with a friend of mine ages ago. Now it feels like, but it was after a few years on the path with the school, and we were just kind of chatting and joking around and talking about stuff, and I started to say the sentence that began with the words, well, I'm the kind of guy that. And then as I was saying the sentence, I stopped talking because I realized that what I was about to say was no longer true.
Mm.
And it wasn't anything that I like set out to fix. It wasn't anything that I was even necessarily aware of as being a major issue. It wasn't
Mhm.
something that I had to like hash out and revisit and heal and cry about or any of those things. It just
Mhm.
at some point along the path fell away because it wasn't truly part of who I am.
Right.
And so I got to say the sentence that said, oh, I'm the kind of guy that, oh, wait, never mind. No, I'm not. That's not me. It never was.
It seems like now things are really kind of amping up with the ascension process and the planet, and people becoming a little bit more divided about what they believe is right, each believing that they're very right, that there is no good and bad or right or wrong. Um, how does that play into what you're seeing with the teachings that you've known that have existed these thousands and thousands of years, with what you're seeing with the amplification of things right now?
It's relevant, right? And it's definitely we are at a special time. In the mystery school terms, we call it Shambhala. But
Hmm.
whether you call it the new age or the new paradigm or the age of Aquarius or the golden yuga or heaven on earth, whatever name that different people have for it is, we're essentially all talking about the same thing.
Hmm.
And mystery school, we call it Shambhala. And prophecy wise, there's some prophecies out there that say that that's we're not there. Well, the energy's here, right? It's the rays of anchor, like the light of Shambhala is present. But
Mhm.
now that the light of Shambhala is present, all of the things that will not be allowed to come into Shambhala with us
Mhm.
are being made more obvious, right?
Mhm.
That light is so bright that it's revealing all the things that we need to leave behind.
Right.
And it's not that we can't take them into Shambhala with us. It's just that if we do, then it won't be Shambhala.
Right.
That it'll just be now.
Right. Right.
Nothing will change. But and I think this is where sometimes people can get a little carried away with like, oh, well, this is what needs to happen in order to get there, or this is what it's going to be like when we get there, and this is what you have to believe, and this is who you have to believe in, and this is all these different
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
But really the core, like the one thing that shifts, that takes where we are now and puts us in Shambhala, is everyone just has to start recognizing that they individually, like I am a divine and royal being,
Mhm.
and that everyone else on the earth is also containing that divinity and royalty within them.
Right.
And if that one thing shifts, then bam, we're in Shambhala. Like, that's
Right.
it.
Right.
Everything else just falls away
Mhm.
that we don't want. And then, is there still heartache? Is there still grief? Is there still pain? Yeah, of
Mhm.
course. That's part of life. That's part of being a human. That helps us, grow and learn who we are, and have this experience of physicality that we're here for. But what master of light you pray to, and how you pray to them, and all these other things, you do you. Right?
How much Christianity is woven into the ancient mystery teaching? Because I know they were started long before Christ,
Mhm.
but I think that he exemplified what is taught in the mystery schools. But I was wondering, is there any things that appear more Christian?
He's definitely relevant.
Mhm.
He's a pretty cool guy. He did some pretty awesome stuff.
Right.
He trained with all seven of the ancient lineages. That
Oh.
time when he was missing,
Uh-huh.
there's no records of him, right? He was
Uh-huh.
going around and training with all the seven schools, and he was actually the lineage holder of the King Solomon lineage in his time.
Wow.
So there are teachings of his that are relevant,
Mhm.
and he's an energy that we call on for a lot of things because it's a really useful and really
Mhm.
powerful energy to use.
Yeah.
Um,
And he told us we could,
yeah,
that he'd always be
literally said
there.
it. Yeah.
I can't help but thinking though, if he literally came back tomorrow and showed up in his light body, and how many people would, say it was a fake or a fraud, or, have something bad to say. And I think, what are people waiting for? Like, what sign do you really need, that we need to just get out of this 3D nonsense that we are so attached to?
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but that's why I'm hoping that
Well,
learning the teachings will help.
well, and it is. So this is where it becomes, well, I think it is currently painfully obvious that people will believe what they want to believe.
Hmm.
And no matter how much evidence you provide them
Hmm.
to provide information to the contrary of what they've decided to believe,
Right.
doesn't matter, right? And so, like you said, yeah, he could show up right in front of the world, and go on national television and say, here I am, this is what's going on.
Right.
And then you would have still all the people saying, nah, fake news, nah,
Yeah.
that was AI, whatever.
Yeah.
And legitimately so, because there is a lot of fake stuff, there's a lot of AI out there, we get it. But this is why, to me, it just expresses the importance of what we need to shift is the desire in people to know themselves and know their minds better, and to
Hmm.
clear and master their minds better,
Yes.
so that those, because like anything, right, we can find the beauty of it, and to say that, oh, the thing thinks I'm raising my hand. That's funny.
Oh, I did
um
see that little hand, and I didn't know what that was for. Huh.
um
Okay.
so
Oh, so something that frustrates me is, um, people can read the Bible over and over and over again, and they believe that angels came. They believed that an angel spoke to Mary. They believe, that there was beings with light bodies that came, and that now they don't believe in miracles.
mm,
Now, short of that full-bodied apparition of a master, for some reason they don't consider a miracle a thing, or that we could do miraculous things. And Jesus said we can do all that he can do and more.
Mhm.
And again, that's why I think that learning the teachings and the traditions of the mystery schools are so important.
Well, that's yeah, because unless someone has the desire to shift what's going on in their mind, that would give them the ability to open themselves to the possibility of learning something new, or
Hmm.
accepting a new belief, or releasing an old belief,
Hmm.
then you're just butting your head against the wall, and then the I know the old phrase, that's then you're wrestling with the pig, which means that you're both getting dirty, but the pig likes it, right? Um, but that's also where that ability to look beyond and look within. And granted, it can be a little scary, right? Sometimes people don't want to see all that, and I get it.
Right.
I used to have a voice that lived in my head that said, don't look there, because if you do, you're going to find out things that are so terrible that you'll never come back from it. you know
Mm,
um
yeah. I think that's the ego, just
oh
being
yeah.
afraid that if you discover that it's almost like a matter of self-preservation. The more that you start letting go of the beliefs that you think formed you, that it'll feel like that it's I kind of have felt that way at times where I've had major shifts and I'm now all of a sudden no longer interested in many of the things that I used to be.
Hmm.
It does feel a little weird. Feels like you're
Yeah.
about to step off a precipice,
Yeah.
but you know.
Well, and we can look at the ego, and there's many more teachings and conversation around this, but there's the ego that is the sense of self, of just saying that this is who I am,
Mhm.
and then there's also all of the other parts that come with the personality and the wounding and the programs and the stories and all of that.
Right,
And that other part, right, the I am not, essentially, as opposed to the I am,
right.
is going to present itself as self-preservation and say, oh
Mhm.
no, these are the things you need to do, or don't look there, or don't do that, right? And it's going to say this is going to keep you safe, and of course none of it's true, but it makes
Right.
a really compelling case, and it uses logic and reason
Mhm.
much more often than you would think.
And same with
um
anxiety, that's really what anxiety is. It's your body fooling you into thinking you're dying when you're really not. And that's part of what it is, whether it's, physical fear or worry or, not understanding different things.
right.
And that is hard to get over. And then I do feel like too, the more we learn, sometimes then the more we don't know. And sometimes it does feel overwhelming. But
Yeah.
um, you know, having that faith in your mind and knowing,
Yeah,
how powerful we really are is a very, very valuable tool.
absolutely. And like looking at things like you were talking about, the miracles, right? Like, now, granted, we would, in mystery school terms, we would differentiate between magic and miracles.
Hmm.
In that magic is something that you're going to have an active hand in, right? You're going to be a participant in making this happen.
Hmm.
Whereas miracles is when we're saying, all right, like, God, you do this.
Right. Right.
And there's a time and a place for miracles. They're not bad. They're not wrong. It's fine.
Hmm. Hmm.
But usually, for the most part, just in the sense that you can't tie your kids' shoes forever, or it will never learn to tie them.
Hmm.
Um, we tend to try to err on the side of magic more than miracles whenever possible, just because then we're the powers that be, right? The hierarchy of light, God, source, spirit, the universe, however you want to think of it or call it, it tends to be a little bit more supportive of that, because that's helping us to learn and grow and become more.
Hmm.
Whereas if they're always just kind of stepping in and doing it for us, then
Right.
and
So is
again, there's a time
magic
and a place.
similar, excuse me, to creating your own reality?
There's definitely definitely aspects of creation involved in magic.
Hmm.
And and especially in Kabbalah terms, we look at it and say we are all actively creating our own reality all day,
Hmm.
every day. It's
Hmm.
just whether or not we're doing it from the conscious mind or from the subconscious mind. So
Hmm.
whether we're doing it on purpose or whether we're doing it in reaction, knee-jerk reaction to, again, the wounds, the programs, the scripts, the stories, the traumas, etc.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, I'd say, we could say that magic is where we're stepping into actively and consciously creating our
Hmm.
reality. rather than the unconscious version of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
High magicians, are there any that you can speak to that are publicly known?
I mean, certainly at this point, maybe it sounds a little self-serving, but we have some pretty high-level initiates in our lineage that I like when I'm trying to look at what it looks like to be a highly functioning, high-level magician in this current modern world. Like they're definitely good role models for me to look to and say, all right, what does it look like to be a modern day magician, a modern day wizard, if you will.
And the teacher that's on the Gaia channel that has her her own network.
Yeah.
Dr.
She's
Teresa
definitely
Bullard,
wonderful.
right?
Yeah, Dr. Teresa Bullard. She's one that I look to. Sovereign of Sisymus, Dave Lanyon, and Founder Goodney. We have some pretty amazing high level initiates in the lineage that I look at. I'm like, oh, that's what it looks like to be a functioning human in this modern world that is also a highly magical being. Working on the metaphysical level as well with it all.
There was rumors that Walt Disney was, and I don't have any direct evidence. There are people, if you look on Reddit, that are going to say that he lived with somebody or, that he had connections. But if you look at some of the things that he built and the way that he built them and some of the movies that he made, it would not surprise me.
So he was an initiate. He trained in the King Solomon lineage. I don't know the details of when and how long. I don't know how far he went with it all. But he did, because you can see it filters into much of his work. Also, if you look at the map of the Magic Kingdom, it pretty much lays out the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is super cool. I worked there years and years ago.
I live a mile away.
What's that?
I live a mile away.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, look at the map of the way the original layout of the Magic Kingdom was, and you can essentially see the Kabbalistic tree of life. But the the Donald Duck cartoons about sacred geometry and the metaphysical themes that come out in Fantasia, he was pretty actively working with all that stuff. And Epcot was essentially his vision of what Shambhala could be. Yes.
So on that note, we've got about a minute. So, and then that's where we're going to pick up.
Great.
In the next thing, because reincarnation was something that I have studied quite a bit too. And I was going to tell you a little bit about some of his past lives and about Atlantis as well. For whatever it's worth, everybody can take what information is useful to them. And again, your website is
loganlightcenter.com.
Easy enough. Okay. And then, or you can see Charlie at Spirit Fest at the end of April, about 3.5 weeks away. And you can find all of the information about our shows at Spirit Fest USA. So we're going to go to a break and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hi, this is the Celtic seer, Barbara McGillicuddy, and you can find me at barbramcgillicuddy.com or on YouTube at Metaphysical Awakenings with Barbara and Eric. As a medium and animal communicator, it is my joy to speak with people on this side and people who have crossed over to bring forth beautiful messages of love.
Hi, I'm Susan from My Enchanted Path, where I create divinely guided candles, intention oils, soaps, and more that make your spiritual practice simple. No complicated rituals needed. The names may be playful, but every product is serious about helping you shift your energy. All fragrances are clean and safe, free from the major toxins no one wants in their home or on their skin. With a 5-star rating and over 100,000 customers, MyEnchantedPath.com is a place to find charming items for an enchanted life.
Are you longing for the deepest healing of your soul? The kind that transforms you from the soul outward? At JewishHealer.com, Dr. Doran Shalev offers powerful energy healing rooted in the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, where he heals the body through the soul and the soul through divine connection. Your transformation begins with a single session. Treat yourself and book yours today at JewishHealer.com. All sessions are 50% off through December.
Join us for Spirit Fest, coming soon to a city near you. Spirit Fest is a metaphysical, holistic, and crystal expo featuring an amazing array of vendors, speakers, authors, artists, crystals, healers, psychic readers, and more. Spirit Fest is your chance to explore and connect with others of like mind. Get all details, including our upcoming locations up and down the East Coast, also discounted admission, and more at spiritfestusa.com. Our next event is January 10th and 11th with special guests and special presentations, including psychic explorer, medium Mark Anthony, and also historical researcher, explorer, and author Jim Vieira. More details are coming to our website soon, and we look forward to seeing you at Spirit Fest in 2026. Welcome back to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. We are here with our very special guest, Charlie Logan, and we are discussing the 7 mystery schools, the 7 ancient mystery schools, and mystery schools today. And there's so much high-level information tied into the mystery school teachings that are thousands and thousands of years old. But in our last segment, we were just talking really briefly about Walt Disney and that he was an initiate of the mystery schools, and that his plan for Epcot resonated with the accepted version of Shambhala, of what that looks like. I think of the Chicago, is it Chicago? Who sang Shambhala, that song?
Oh, Three Dog Night.
Three Dog Night. Yeah, I'm not going to sing
It's one of my favorite songs ever.
It really is. And that's why I'm going to do you a favor and not sing it, because then you can't ever unhear it. But it's something that I would definitely turn up very loud in the car.
Oh yeah, me too.
When it came on. But when you look at so my understanding is that he was also a high priest in Atlantis, for whatever that's worth. And in Atlantis, we had buildings that had crystals at the top, and there was a lot of use with the crystals. And when you go through, I believe it's actually in Magic Kingdom, the people mover goes around a city, and the city was sort of the prototype of what he was envisioning celebration, that design community there. And it has a church, and it has a big crystal at the top. And that's what I think of. But I do think sometimes, whether it is remembering or whether he was really tied into that Shambhala, that yes, that is what I mean, because literally that's what it is. When you go, you can kind of separate yourself from reality, and at that time you can be whoever you want to be. And I do think that there's something to that.
Well, and we would say that the properties were gridded, the parks were, use sacred geometry to be able to set up, and there is an energetic shift that happens when you enter the park, but then you have to do that shift from the tickets turnstiles to Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if we're looking at the layout of the Kabbalah tree of life, that's you're going from Malkuth, which is the kingdom of the physical world, to the gateway of Yesod, which then is what leads to all the higher dimensions.
Right.
And so very likely that all of that property was crystal gridded before he started building on it, and
Mm-hmm.
and blessed and done all the things, because again, he would have had at least some level of the teachings to be able to do all of that with.
Mm-hmm. And I see, again, getting way off topic here, at night there is 50,000 people focused on the castle, because they do like projection show on the castle, and then there's fireworks behind it. So for that 15 minutes, everybody is looking at that castle, and that's where everybody's attention is. And I look at the different spires that are going up, and I definitely see there's a lot of energy getting moved through there, and most everybody's happy, so it's a, a positive thing. And I've just seen some very interesting things.
I was a performer at Disney World back in 2000, 2001, something like that. And I was in the group that did the shows on the stage in front of the castle. And so our nightly show, the fireworks would have, or Tinkerbell would fly, fireworks would happen, and then we would come out and do our show. And one of the things in my life that I will never forget is that experience in general, but also the 4th of July show. The park was at full capacity. They couldn't let anybody else in. And we came out for our show, and as far as the eye could see in every direction was just packed people focusing on that. And the castle, again, when we're looking at the from Kabbalah terms, the castle is Tiferet, which is the heart, and it's the Christ consciousness, and it's where we transcend from the lower self into the higher self. So yeah, you're right. Having so much energy focused there, nightly, and that many people doing it, like, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and he specifically picked that location. He himself did as well. And so those are the cool things that you'll learn when you study, the mystery schools. There's just so much interesting stuff. So it's weaving science, mathematics, and then, spirituality, psychology, all of those different tenets that are in there. So
Yeah,
could you?
Carl Jung was another fairly famous person that was an initiate in the lineage. So,
Wow.
when it comes to psychology, right, that's kind of like the foundation of modern psychology. So it's woven into everything. And then you get back to one of the things that I love about the mystery school is that I don't like secondhand information.
Yes.
I like firsthand information, right? And so sometimes, especially in the school, right, there might be a secondhand situation that's helping guide me to the information, or helping me unlock that information within myself. But then I get to confirm it within me. I'm like, nope, that's right. How do I know that's right? I know it's right. I live it, I breathe it, I put it to work in my life, and then I see the benefit of it. And then it's not about someone in a class that said this is true. It's about me saying, oh, no, I live this in my life. And it's
because
true.
these are universal principles.
Yes. Yeah.
So tangible principles. So yeah, so could you tell us what the 7 mystery schools were, where they were, or what traditions they followed?
So yeah, let me test my memory. We had the Australian school that was held by the Aboriginal people. And each school holds a different ray. I may not be able to completely pull all of the different rays out of my head, but we'll see. I know the Australian school works on the dream time. And so, holding that space for the dreams of humanity is a big piece of what they do. In Japan, there is one of the ancient lineages, and they hold the key of honor, the ray of honor. Tibet is the overseer of all the lineages, like of all the 7. The Tibetan school oversees them all. And they're the master weavers of our experience of this reality. The African school anchors the ray of passion. There's a school in Romania in Eastern Europe. There is the London lineage based in London with the ray of chivalry. And then we are the North American lineage. And we anchor the ray that combines or bridges the physical and the spiritual.
So, and then the Romania, do you recall the ray that one is?
They're all about like mechanics and things, like they make contraptions.
Okay.
So things like the Kirlian photography, that kind of stuff, that like they're like the technology that helps like, work with metaphysics. Yeah, they're about like the gadgets and the mechanics and that kind of stuff.
Looking at this, it seems like that this is where some of the original civilization started, is in these areas.
Well, yeah, there's definitely
what about Greece?
So there was a time. So the King Solomon lineage was originally he inherited the keys to the Hermetic lineage that have been around for thousands of years before that, right? Because all of these teachings have been around for as long as there have been humans. But in King Solomon's temple is where he consolidated everything. He also brought in people from all over the world, because you mentioned that concept of universality, right? He wanted to find all of the teachings that were universal and that would work for all people all the time. So the healings, the teachings, the rituals, the ceremonies, the practices, whatever it was that all people could use to benefit, to embody what he would call the Adam Kadmon, or the divine human, which is the key to getting us to Shambhala, right? Because again, you mentioned earlier, right? evidence shows up right in front of us, but if we don't have that ability to see ourselves as the divine human and to be in that
Right.
state to receive it, then it doesn't matter,
Mhm.
right? So shifting individually everybody into that divine state is how we then shift the collective, rather than, it's a bottom up, not a top down.
Right.
So he brought everybody into his temple and developed all that, and that would have been, in the Middle East, in Alexandria time, areas, that whole part of the world.
Mhm.
Eventually, it's a little bit of a longer conversation about where the school traveled from then and how it got to ultimately be anchored in Great Britain, in London,
Mhm.
and then to have that opening to the public in the North American lineage as well.
Mhm.
But Greece was a part of that process, we'll at least
Okay.
say. And the Pythagorean schools was relevant to that, and then also woven into everything. So there was definitely a lot of this going on in ancient Greece. It's part of the story
Just
for sure.
do the Phoenicians play into this? They were the ones who went all over with their boats.
They might. I don't know for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm thinking anyway.
Mhm.
I'm just looking at these locations and thinking about how, but like Romania, the Carpathian Mountains, that was my understanding, was that was one of the original seats of civilization.
Could be.
And that to me is just really cool, just looking at
Yeah.
all of the different traditions and stuff that came out of these locations. So that's just really interesting. But the North American one, so how old is that? I mean, is because it can't be as old as the others, or is it?
Well, how old is it? It's a good question. I know the teachings in the Ray were anchored there for a very long time. There were people in North America longer than we necessarily acceptedly, say that there were people in North America. So
Right.
it would have been around for a long time. I don't know the details of how far back it dates.
Hmm.
Um, but it was in 1997 when essentially the keys of the North American lineage were passed on to the holder of the King Solomon lineage, and a separate branch of the King Solomon lineage was created to be able to
Hmm.
continue to hold the North American Ray, because it's not that it was failing, but they just weren't able to keep it anchored the way that it needed to be.
Right. Right. Can you explain what the rays are? There might be listeners who don't know about the rays, and it's kind of an advanced thing. So good
Well,
luck explaining that
yeah,
simply.
there's, especially in the mystery school teachings, like there's a lot of rays.
Mhm.
There are the 144,000 rays of density that we're a part of, but all of those stem from the original seven rays.
Mhm.
You could think of them as the seven rays of creation.
Mhm.
They correlate with the seven major chakras. They relate to the 7 days of the week, the 7 days of creation. So, but there's, yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit of a deeper rabbit hole to go
Well,
down.
my understanding is that, and then as humans, we each have embody certain rays as well. Um, sort of like with our personality, that just we take on the tenets of different rays, and that often we will attract either other people of the same ray or ones, we attract, friends, lovers, partners, business people that have corresponding ones. Or if we're in a
Mm.
group, it might be really interesting. You might find that, that that we're all different rays, and you can kind of see how we've come together.
I, I think there's validity to that. I would just say it's important to remember that we all have the ability to access all seven of them and embody them fully,
Hmm. Hmm.
but we may have different ones that we've chosen, or that we're more, what's the right word? Like, that we have an affinity for, right? Or that
Right.
we tend to focus on, or connect with more, or that we resonate with more, for sure.
Right.
But I would say that's also one of the things that we're doing in the path as initiates, and especially as ritual masters, is to open up and be able to access all seven of them more and more directly.
How
Um,
many levels of initiation are there? Can you say? I don't want to ask
there
secret
there are
questions.
many.
Uh-huh.
Because like there are different paths, within the school. And
Mhm.
so depending on what you're drawn to, what you care to study with, like what the things are that you're passionate about that you connect to,
Mhm.
there are going to be different initiations along the path.
Mhm.
Um, I have, let's say, I have received,
A lot from your bio.
yeah, at least 7 major initiations.
Mhm.
Um, 8. I don't know. I have to like sit down and count them out.
Okay.
Because there are, there are big steps in the training that you can take, that you might get a certification to do a healing modality, or a different, 9 or 10 right there. Um, but there's also different initiation processes. So like the the adept initiation, that leads on the healer's path, that's part of it. There are the ritual master initiations that are part of the warrior's path, and there are certain initiations on that level. When you get up to the level of becoming an abscissimus in the school, there's then, I think, 7 levels of an abscissimus initiation.
Mhm.
We've started working a lot with the Viking energy recently, and there are Viking initiations that we receive in the Viking shaman path.
Mhm.
The Celtic shaman initiation is its own path
Mhm.
that you can start to walk
Mhm.
and work on. And a lot of the different shamanistic paths have their own initiations, like
Mhm.
depending on which area you're studying with.
Right. And that's what your interest is, or where you feel gravitated towards, right?
I definitely, yeah, I like the shamanic stuff. That's
Yeah.
I love it
Yeah.
all, but the shamanic, and I think Egyptian stuff is probably my second
Mm.
favorite.
Mhm.
But any form of the shamanic stuff, which makes sense, right? I was drawn to theater. Shamanic stuff is very dramatic. There's lots of,
Mhm.
it's a very active, it's theatrical.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've been drawn to that energy my whole life. I just didn't
Mhm.
know it was shamanic energy.
And the Druids, that's what they were originally. They were the priests, they were the poets,
Yeah.
they were in all of those types of different arts and everything.
Yeah.
So it's so
And that was still
interesting.
true up until, even Isaac Newton was a scientist. He was an alchemist. He was an initiate. He was an artist.
Hmm.
Uh, it used to be that there was this much more holistic and much more well-rounded aspect to all of it. And to study science was to study spirituality, and was to study art. It was all connected, and they were all just different aspects of way to further the deeper understanding, ultimately, of the self.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because
Preach. Yes.
what's that?
This is it. This is
Yeah.
exactly it. And just being able to weave all of that in. It doesn't, this obviously these are really high level teachings, but this is where it's at, where you
Well,
can
and
tie in tangible things like that.
yeah, and there's high levels of it, right? Or the
Hmm.
deeper levels of it, but it's so known within us that a lot of it, even the high level teachings, you hear and you're like, oh yeah, of course that's right. It
Hmm.
never occurred to me to think of it that way before, or I
Hmm.
didn't have the words to speak about it before, but it's all in there. And so, granted, there's still plenty of times where I have, my mind blown by teachings that I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Hmm.
Uh, but then, even as my mind's being blown by saying, oh my God, that's so crazy, there's the other part of my brain that's finally unlocked, that's like, yeah, of, like, of course that's what it is. We've
Yeah.
always known that. We just didn't know that we knew it.
You talked about, and I remember we discussed this at one of the shows as I was watching you put up your temple, which was fascinating.
Mm,
The very first thing that you do is that healing, and it's activating DNA. Am I remembering that right?
mhm.
It's kind of a big thing. Maybe it's a couple of hours.
Yeah, it's about a 2-hour session. The healing itself actually only takes about an hour-ish.
Okay.
But it's one that you want time to be able to talk before and after and not have to rush out of.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a one-on-one session that we do over the course of about 2 hours. Um,
So if people would like that, they don't need to commit to being an initiate or commit to the mystery school, do they? Anybody could do that, right?
Anybody can do that.
Mhm.
There are, we talk sometimes about the 3 pillars within the school. There's the pillar of initiation, which
Mhm.
is relevant and really, up levels and up games. That's not a word, but it's fine.
Mhm.
There's the pillar of philosophy, which are the teachings, the understandings, the different practices that you can do, and like the sacred geometries, the astral travel, the elemental magics, all that kind of stuff. But then there's the pillar of healing, and I mean, even just there's probably about 40 something different modalities within the school that I'm trained in.
Wow.
Um, and some of them, some of the really higher level things you would need to be an initiate to receive or walking the path. But
Hmm.
there's a ton of them that are open for anybody who just wants some healing.
Hmm.
And how you kind of weave those three pillars together is very much up to the individual. And
Hmm.
some people might do some of the healings and take some of the classes, but never decide to initiate and walk that part of the path, and that's
Hmm.
fine.
Hmm.
The way to get the most out of all of it is to weave all three together. But
Okay. Right.
that's super individual,
Hmm.
and how people weave it and how they walk the path, ultimately it's a school. And so
Hmm.
uh you take the classes that you want to take, and you don't take classes you don't want to take, and you do the healings that you want to do, and you don't do the others.
Got
So,
it. Okay. Okay. It's not like you get initiated and, that's it. You can't talk about it anymore and you're a member for life. So, okay, that's very good to clarify that.
um
Um, I,
I have initiates that I hear from very regularly, and it's been years and they're still very much actively involved, and I have initiates that I've initiated them and I have never heard from them again.
wow.
And
Okay.
everything in between. It's
Uh-huh.
ultimately, it's their teachings and tools for you to use, and how
Mhm.
you use them is up to you.
So for anybody that's interested, that's what I would recommend would be to go to your website at Logan Light Center and then look at all of you've got to offer there. But again, a good way to get a sample, an idea, and to talk to Charlie is to come to Spirit Fest Sarasota. And I know you do other shows as well. That's just the next one that's coming up.
Mhm.
But to actually get to ask questions and actually see what's going on. And then, you could even have a little mini session there, which I think is a really great opportunity to see that and just to learn a little bit more. But there's so much to this. It's just a really good opportunity to be able to ask questions. So we've got just about 3 minutes left. Can you tell me about the Max meditation system that you
Oh
do at
yeah.
your school?
Yeah. So the lineage holder that opened up the lineage to the public, his name is Goodney Goodnison. We call him Founder Goodney because he's the one who brought this all out. He combined his studies of ancient teachings with degrees in psychology and neurolinguistic programming to create a meditation system that is helpful for people to be successful if they struggle to meditate, or to be more successful even if they already have a meditation practice. So
Wow.
it's if you are super familiar with a lot of meditation techniques, it's
Hmm.
going to feel familiar. It's not going to feel like anything earth shattering, but
Hmm.
it's combined in a way that helps to be more successful with it. And I've been able to see it be really successful over the years with people who people come in and they're like, oh, I can't meditate, I can never meditate, I tried to meditate, it doesn't work.
Right.
And then are able to sit through an hour-long max meditation
Uh-huh.
session and
That's good to
be
know.
successful with it.
Yeah.
Are they in that like perfect state of total meditation the entire time for an hour the first time? Well, probably not, but you're able to get
Hmm.
there and start to get a taste of it.
That's
And I
great.
always say, if me and the former steaming dumpster fire that used to be my mind can meditate, then anybody can meditate. And the max meditation is really a wonderful way to be able to get to that. And that's something that I offer here in Sarasota. It's also can be found in many places all over the world, and there's even several practitioners that lead it online.
Oh, okay.
It's not, of course, it's never the same as actually being there in person, but it
Right.
can be a good way to get a taste.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah. So
But Sarasota's lovely if you don't live in the area. It's an easy drive. How far are you off the highway, off the interstate?
I'm from 75. I'm like 4 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super close.
Yeah. And so anyway, highly recommend. But I'm really glad that we've been able to get into this so much because I think what you do and what the mystery schools do is so important right now because this is really true knowledge. And I'm just grateful that you're sharing this
Oh.
all over Sarasota and all over Florida and all over every Spirit Fest that we do. So, well, almost every. So again,
Whenever I can
your
get there, I get there.
yes. I know you're busy. So loganlightcenter.com, that's how we find Charlie. And then to look at our Spirit Fest schedule, spiritfestusa.com. And our show in April, I want to say the date, it is the
25th and
25th and
26th, I think.
25th and 26th, yes. And doors open at 10 a.m. each day. It is one of the best shows of the year, truly. Sarasota, we just love that area. There's parrots flying around. It's just a neat place. It was the winter home of the Ringling Brothers Circus for a long time. And it's just got some real good old world energy there. So we really enjoy it. So, but whenever you're listening to this video, if you might be listening to it in a replay or anything, definitely check out Charlie's website at loganlightcenter.com. And thank you everybody for staying with us, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you for spending this time with me here on the Sanctuary Network. Tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Transformation Network as we gather to share stories, wisdom, and practices that remind us of something essential. Sanctuary isn't just a place you go, it's a space you create in your heart, your home, and your daily life. I hope today's conversation sparked something in you, a sense of belonging, a new idea, or simply a reminder that you are not alone on this journey. If this touched you, please share it with someone who could use a little light. Together we can grow this circle of sanctuary and inspire a ripple of healing around the world. And don't forget, the journey continues at spiritfestusa.com, thesanctuarynetwork.com, and naturalwellnessexpo.com. And of course, every week right here on Transformation Network. Until next time, may you be well, may you be inspired, and may you live fully in sanctuary.